is very much in this, you're basically pulling the bow back, and what's going to happen after is you're going to release it. It's going to fly forward. It's this energy of doing, action oriented, taking charge around what it is that you guys are about to be doing as it relates to various spiritual practices that you're going to be sharing with the world. And your angels want to know that the energy that you've been putting into really being action oriented at this phase is incredibly powerful and is the greatest strength to continue to lean into. So if there's moments where you feel somewhat apprehensive around, oh, I'm not really seeing the results I want to see yet. Are we sure this is going to create the impact? Am I sure I'm helping people with this? Allow those feelings and thoughts to dissipate, because right now you're in the phase where it's almost this paradox of growth, which is growth happens very slowly and then all at once very suddenly. Yeah. And so this period where it's like the steady build up to something that's like, whoa, okay, like we are now, this thing is like way bigger than I could have expected. And your angels know that you're feeling these inklings of things that are on the horizon, but they now want you to fully welcome in miracles. It's the message. There are miracles that are coming your way. And there's no miracle that is too big or too small that is able to be brought into your reality and existence. And there's something in your heart that's telling you, it's like there's right on a verge of something that feels absolutely miraculous that's about to just like this one step that we're about to take, and everything opens up. Your angels want you to know that you're right on that step, and to allow yourself to now open fully to expect and receive the miracles that are coming your direction, as to the ways that you're going to be sharing this, and simultaneously the ways in which you will receive the reciprocal abundance. And it may not be in ways that you expect. So it's not always just monetary funds. It can be gifts. It can be sudden ways that someone presents you an opportunity. It's going to be in ways that you probably couldn't expect. And you wouldn't even say like, wow, I couldn't even imagine it coming through this random comes into my life, and this feel like, how does this happen? And it's going to leave you with this feeling of awe. Just keep doing what you're doing, but don't focus on that was crazy.
What did that happen?
What was that?
I did not click anything. My hands are right here. That was why. And they do that. The angels do that. Like they'll literally send me random signs like
Han Meditations.
All right, guys, we're here with Neal Bakshi. We had him on our podcast before, and we're so excited to have you and so thankful that you're coming on, because we've kind of built a relationship since we had first had you on, and we're so grateful to have you on again. And we just wanted to say, like, you are a powerful, powerful being. I mean, we were just looking over the messages that you even gave us before during the podcast, and it was just like incredible. I mean, some of the things you were saying are that, you know, it's like a buildup of energy that's going to come all at once. It's like the bow and arrow that's pulling back, and then as soon as it releases, it all shoots at once. And since that has happened, I mean, I think when you came on, we were at about 3,000 to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now our channel is pushing 35,000 subscribers just in the last 5 months since we had you on.
Insanity.
And you were talking about abundance coming in new ways. I mean, this is the first time we've been making money just from our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like, we've never made any money from it. Now we're starting to get some level of income from it where we can invest back into the channel.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just, you were even saying that that it'll leave us with a feeling of awe, which we are just shocked. I mean, it's just an incredible experience to just of what's happening. And we're just speaking about God and learning about God through different religions. And it's just so exciting. So we just want to thank you for that. I mean, that is incredible. I mean, I don't know if you saw this coming or what, but when you got those messages, that's powerful. And we just had to say that.
Thank you, guys. I mean, it's been such a blessing to get to know both of you since that original podcast. And as you were just speaking right now about the massive growth of the channel and now money coming from the channel, and just everything that's been unfolding, this feeling of awe, my head had complete chills, like crown, just like full head chills. And I'm just grateful to know you guys and be on this journey with you. I can't say I saw into exactly how it would all turn out.
I knew some major shift was taking place, and
Mm.
it's crazy that it's only been 5 months. It feels like decades have passed in a way that like every day feels like an eternity, but then every month feels like it goes by in a second. So the perception of time right now just feels dilated and compressed simultaneously. It's crazy.
I mean, it absolutely does, because another one of the things that you were saying is we have to be open to miracles happening and just be ready for it. And during that time, I was still on dialysis whenever I was talking to you. During that exact time, the doctors were still telling me, you're not going to get better. You're on dialysis. You have to get a transplant. And my mind was just, stuck on, I'm going to heal. I'm going to heal. Since then, I've been off of dialysis. I mean, it's just such a crazy experience. A miraculous healing happened within my body, where even the doctors were shocked, where they were like, you don't need to do it anymore. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. So, and you were saying all of this happening because it takes a lot for you to even, stick your neck out there and say something like that, because I understand what it feels like whenever you're channeling certain things. And sometimes you're like, hey, I don't necessarily want to say this, or you kind of want to edit it a little bit. You're like, you may be like, I don't want to give them false hope or whatever, but you're just saying whatever comes to you. And you did that so well. And people don't understand how hard it is to really just separate yourself from the messages that you're getting from these angel readings. And I have to thank you for that, because that is a skill that a lot of people don't realize how difficult it truly is, because your own physical mind wants to sit and say, hey, well, I don't know if I want to say this part or that part, but you just let it all out. And we thank you so much. I mean, we listened to it so many times. That gave us so much strength during our journey and the process. And felt like we were right at the cusp, but we didn't know. And now we know that, the healing has happened, and, you foresaw that as well.
Yeah. I mean, talk about, you mentioned the arrow being pulled back and everything happened at once. I mean, truly, this happened. He got off dialysis, a real miracle. Shortly after, we moved to a new home. Then the channel started growing. I mean, this truly all happened at once. So.
Yeah, at once. And you said it was going to happen like that. So it's just phenomenal. I mean, you can't make this up. Like, it's just crazy. So we just got her last month, and we had 3 million views, and people watch for 19.8 million minutes on the channel. So it's just crazy, because we've been doing a lot studying we learned so much in the last year about Hinduism and learning about Vedanta. Now people want to just react to Islam, and we've been learning about Islam. And we've kind of been realizing that it's basically, that we believe there's just one God. So we believe that it's just, everyone is basically interacting with the same God. So do you want to give your thoughts on maybe God and religion and how you started, and do you conform to a certain religious
what is your belief system?
Description, or what's your belief system when it comes to religion and God?
Yeah, so much I just want to like touch on there. First of all,
go ahead.
Sure.
I know we said a lot.
First of all, I just want to thank you both for seeing me, and I mean that with like capital SC, because it's totally a journey. It's a journey of authenticity, standing in your truth, and at times it's scary as F. And you're just like, you're like, how are people going to relate to this? What are they going to take out of this? Am I right? Like, this is sensitive information. Like, whoa. So thank you for seeing it and receiving it, and huge congrats on your miracle healing. Genuinely, I'm over the moon for you and your health. And the external is always a sign of the internal. So it's clear that an internal shift has taken place to allow the external shift to take place. So amazing on all accounts, moving, the channel growing, everything. And it's no surprise to me that the channel is growing as you talk about God. That is the greatest symbolism that you can possibly ask for, because it is saying this is a message that needs to get out there, that wants to get out there, that is meaningful, and people need to hear this. So I'm excited to talk about this word with you, because It's been a word I was in a lot of resistance to using for a lot of my life. I was so against the word God. I never wanted to say it. I wasn't raised in any religious tradition. So my mom was raised as a Sikh, the Sikh tradition. And my dad and mom ultimately converted to this spiritual path called Self-Realization Fellowship by Paramahansa Yogananda. And it basically just teaches how to make your life more spiritualized, how to make your life more sacred, and meditation as the key to everything. Like meditation is driven home literally in every like second line. So it's self-realization through meditation. So I really didn't have this deep, entrenched religious upbringing, albeit, you know, I've been to Hindu temples, I've been to Sikh temples, I've been to Jewish synagogues, I've been to Christian churches, I've been to Roman Catholic church. Like I've been able to appreciate the beauty within every religion because they all have the same underlying truth, which is the one God, the single universal creator, life force, spirit source, whatever you want to call it, that is behind everything. That is the director of the show. We are just here being the actors. And we are often so attached to our role as the actors of this play that we forget that we're actually not the doers. We think we're the doers, but we're not the doers. We're the beers. We're the ones meant to be and to experience the full breadth of the beauty of the human existence that we get to live without being fully attached to it, because everything here is impermanent.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's actually beautiful, because that's what we feel as well, because we grew up, Kelly grew up Catholic Christian, I grew up Baptist Christian, which is basically just a sect of Protestant. And it's basically this, you know, it's different from Catholic, because in Catholicism, a lot of times they pray to like Mary, or, you know, they have different rituals. Ours was basically like you go to church, you know, you worship God and Jesus, and that's it. And there's a lot of like dancing, singing, you know, it's like the debate, like the central like Black church, like singing, dancing, having fun, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then just, you know, as the more spiritual we got, the more we started to get aligned with, hey, I don't necessarily agree with everything that's said in, you know, that they're saying in church, or the negative aspects, like you're going to be in hell for eternity, or just, you know, different things. And even whenever I started my meditations and doing meditations, I was hesitant to use the word God as well, just like you said, because it's almost like, I thought it was almost like arrogant of me to even use that word. So it was like, you know, like, who am I, you know, to say like God this, God that. And then whenever I was on my health journey, it really was just became more open to me, where I was having a Reiki healing, and then Jesus came to me, but it wasn't like he came to me and said, hey, worship me, I'm God, or anything. It was more like, hey, I'm one of your guides, you're like a bigger brother, just follow my example and work with God, essentially. And then we were reading the Course of Miracles. I'm not sure if we talked about that before, but we started reading the Course of Miracles, and basically the whole mindset that I was doing was allowing God into my body and into my mind, knowing, oh, okay, I see you. I see you.
It's on my desk.
I see you. Okay, we got ours right there. And it's funny because I actually read the entire book during the whole process. And right whenever I finished reading it, it's incredibly long, as you know, is whenever the healing actually happened. Whenever I finished the book, I finished it right before like the last doctor's appointment. And it was such a beautiful thing. But I was feeling like God resides within me, and there can only be perfection where God resides. So if I let God within my body, then there can only be perfection. And I believe God is all that is and connected to everything. So if I just let him in and he's within me, then I'm already healed. So I'll just be operating on that level of already being healed. So I'd be saying, what would I be doing? I wouldn't be complaining about, oh, why did this happen to me? I wouldn't be in a bad mood and be upset at, you know, maybe be short-tempered with Kelly or whatever, because, oh, this happened to me, so I'm a victim. I completely separated myself from that reality and said, I am already healed. I don't care what the doctors are saying. Like, of course, you should listen to your doctors, and I listened to them, but I was just like, they can't control my mind. So I can control my mind. So in my mind, I'm already healed no matter what they say. So what would I be doing? I'd be working out. So I started working out. I'd be eating better. We've been
Yeah.
eating very clean, very good. We don't eat pork. We eat meat, but we don't eat as much meat as we used to. We don't eat
Right.
fast food.
Mm-mm.
And we just try to eat as healthy and clean as possible. So I was doing all these things because I believe to really manifest something, you actually have to become it. A lot of people want to skip that part and they want to say, hey, I want to be abundant, but then they're complaining about not having money. They want to say I'm abundant, but then a bill comes and I don't want to pay this. And so they should be grateful that they can pay the bill. So if you have that gratitude and you're thinking, if I really had the money, I wouldn't be thinking negative in any sense. So what kind of, I want to know like where your mindset is and how you manifest.
1,000% on the same page as you, because the two words that keep jumping out to me are resonance and time. What you're essentially doing is you're an acoustic instrument. You are a frequency that gets sent out into this world, and like a boomerang, that frequency comes right back. It operates based on the law of resonance. And what you're exactly talking about is not just acting, but feeling as if it has already happened. How does that Han who is fully healed go about his day? Well, he's going to be working out. Well, he's going to be eating healthier. Like, that's exactly right. And then you embody that feeling. You become the example through the embodiment, the empowerment through the embodiment. So resonance, spot on. The second thing is time. And we were kind of talking about this, right? Time is an illusion. Time is the fourth dimension.
Yep.
Well, the fifth dimension is timelines. So basically think about like a graph paper and all the lines beside each other. Well, that's the fifth dimension. It's infinite timelines next to each other. And the sixth dimension is time shapes. So similar to how the third dimension is 3D objects, because the first three dimensions are about length, height, and depth.
Right.
The second three dimensions are time, timelines, and time shapes. And so basically what you have are like these conscious time entities, which is like, and then it gets crazy to even follow. But to that point, I bring this up because you are then stepping outside of time completely. You are no longer saying, this is the Han who is healed 2 months from now. You're saying, no, this is how the Han who is healed now operates and behaves. And so you are completely stepping out of the illusion of time and embodying the now present moment to the fullest extent possible through your resonant frequency. So it's showing actually how you activate the God power within you, because God is omniscient. God is omnipresent. And so God doesn't operate on the levels of time. That is one of the creations of God. And so you are basically embodying that full creator magnanimous power, and it shows you that you are living to your highest timeline. So I could not agree fully with the mindset that you are approaching this with, because as the Course in Miracles says, basically, to paraphrase, only love is real. Anything that is not love is part of the egoic illusion of separation. So yeah, living in that love for yourself, that knowing for yourself and your creator as part of that creator, fractal of that, helps you live in that alignment.
Wow.
It makes me, what do you want to say?
I don't know what you're going to say, but I was just saying like that really makes me like emotional. Like I have like tears in my eyes. I'm trying to fight back. Like, I don't know why, but whenever you said that, it just, I don't know, it makes me feel so happy and feel so much gratitude, because that is exactly what was happening with us and the path that we were on as well. What were we going to say, Kelly?
Well, as we have the discussion, it just has me thinking, because, you know, we're discussing manifesting, we're discussing God, and it almost makes me think, and I've never thought of it in this way, as we're describing living as is when you want to manifest something, it's almost like that is the ultimate faith, right? When we think of faith and God and religion, that's a very big thing. And it's also one of those things that kind of makes people step away from religion, you know, when they have the wrong idea of it, thinking, well, why does God want me to, you know, put away my desires and only do what he wants, and et cetera, et cetera. But there's a connection there, right? As you said, like, have God energy within you. And Han said with the miracles, that as he was healing, the more he let God in, he got closer to the miracle. So there are those things that God wants us to do, and we feel it on our heart, right? So those are the things that come from God. When we have those true heart desires that we can't get rid of, we know that's from the higher and the divine. And when we fully step into that now, it's like that's the ultimate faith, right? Like, I know what God has in store for this. It doesn't matter what it looks like around me now. I'm going to step into that, and doesn't matter how long it takes. And to me, as we talk about this manifesting, and it's almost like it's all one. And I never even really thought of it in that way. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I definitely agree. I think that everything is interconnected and connected. And it's just, I mean, how you said it's like the ultimate faith, that really, I've never thought of that before. That is very interesting because I never even thought of it as this is something I'm doing to connect and be, have faith in what I'm doing. It was almost just like, this is what I know works. So I need to go ahead and just do this. Like in my analytical brain, I was just like, I know this works. So I'm going to let God in and I'm going to be my highest self. And it's just, to me, it's just once you realize how the mechanism of reality works, like the mechanics of reality, then you can kind of bend it to your will in a way. So that, like you were saying, the God power, the God energy, if you let that in, then anything is possible. Yeah. So like we're all, creations of God. We're all essentially have a part of God within us. So the more you let God in, the more powerful then you can become, because you have the power of God because God is within you. So it's just such a beautiful process doing that. But I never thought of that, Kelly, whenever you have that faith, because a lot of people are almost scared to feel like, well, who am I to even act like I'm healed or act like this or tell the doctors this or that. And whenever I was actually going into my appointment, Kelly gave me a past life regression and she would do the QHHT session on me. I felt she did the healing part. It felt like lasers going over my body, like, like just healing everything and reworking everything in my body. And it almost felt like the last kind of step. And after that, I really felt like I looked at Kelly. I was like, I know that I don't need a dialysis anymore. Like, I just know I don't even need it a little bit, because there was still like a little bit of doubt in my mind before that. Like, because of course you've been on it for 2 years. You're like, well, what happens whenever I leave? You're going to have maybe a little anxiousness about it. And whenever I got off, I remember we had it was the day before our doctor's appointment. I went in there and I got a message from God and it said, hey, go in there and tell the doctors that you want to do even less time on the dialysis machine. And I was already doing like a very little bit. And I was just like, okay, like, are you sure, God? Like, is this what you want? And I just felt, he's like, look, trust me, you do your part. I'll be in the room with you. And I just really felt that. And I was like, after that, I was like, I had no fear. I was like, okay, I'm going to do what this message that I got. And I went in there and I told the doctors, I was like, hey, they're like, oh, everything looks good. I was like, hey, I want to do less time. And then they're like, oh, okay. And because you're surrounded by a doctor, a nurse, the nutritionist, all these people. So it's kind of intimidating. And they're all looking at your stats and all your blood work and everything. And they're like, oh, okay, he's feeling brave today. All right. And the doctor was like, yeah, I have no problem doing that. Like, you're doing fine. And I was like, oh, okay. After that is whenever I got my test results 2 weeks later. I had to take another blood test and my kidney function skyrocketed after that. And I was just like, wow, like this is the power when you let God within you. So
amazing. And Kelly, to your point, and Han, to your story, like the biggest word that jumps out, which has also been very important in my life recently, it's 2 words. It's fierce faith. It's not just faith. It's a fierce faith. It's like a faith that also has a warrior spirit within it, because if you think about this world of duality, and Kelly, you're talking about this oneness that it all rolls up into 100%. Well, the oneness is fractaled into this dualistic world, which has a positive, a negative, a fear, a love. And if you think about, fear is actually one of the few things in the human mind. And now, let's say the modern human mind, right? I'm not going to talk like 10,000 years ago when we're on the plains, but the majority of our fears are completely psychologically driven, well over 90%, based in a perceived reality that we are not yet living in actuality. It's taking ourselves out of the now. Well, how else can you feel that? Well, the opposite of that is actually faith. You can have such fierce faith that you view it through the lens of, similar to how you viewed your healing. Like, I'm getting this message from the divine saying I need to reduce my dialysis. the fearful mind can easily say, heck no, like, you kidding me? I've been on this for 2 years. Like, I can't let this go. Like, I need to heal myself. Because the other side of you is like, I received this message, but like, what if that doesn't work? And so the two sides are the fearful side or the fierce faith side. And I think that is where a lot of this beauty of life comes in and allows you to lean more into the faithful side, where you're like, okay, I don't necessarily know the outcome that this is going to lead to, but how do I allow myself to just trust that what I'm receiving is positive, is meaningful, is directly from God, and then allowing myself to move forward with that. So props to you for listening to that, because most people would not listen to that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you
true.
so much. Because to me, it's just a lot of times I feel honored. Like Kelly gets messages a lot when she does Reiki. Mine doesn't really work that way. So whenever I do get a message, I'm like, I got to listen to it. You know, it doesn't happen to me all the time. Like Kelly, like almost every time she does Reiki or spiritual practice, it's like when you're doing the angel card reading, she gets the messages and you guys get the messages. And to me, it's like, I'm envious of that. I think it's so cool. But I feel like everyone has a different role and almost a superpower, because that's what's so cool about this. Whenever you really let God in and you start living in your purpose, it's like you develop a superpower. Like, we know that these things are possible. So I know that miraculous healings are possible. And I would always just, watch, like, do research, do something like about like placebo effects and different things. And, there's studies where people go in for back surgery and they're not actually giving them the surgery, but they actually put them under and tell them that they got them the surgery. And then they get up and they're like, I feel way better. And so your body's going to respond to whatever your brain is thinking. And people don't realize it's so important to just think positive thoughts and then act on it as well. Because if you're not acting on it, then it's not going to manifest. You have to act on it, because we live in the physical world. So we have physical bodies. So you can't just think your way into it. Right. You have to know that you're already healthy, and then you have to eat right. You have to do the actions, working out and all that. So the physical part plays a definite role in it. So I want to ask you too, when did you stop being hesitant about saying the word God? Like, what made that transition really happen within you, where you're like, I'm not, I feel hesitant about it. And then you're like, you know what? I don't care.
Awesome question. Awesome question. There's a lot I want to answer before as well, but I'll come
go
back
ahead.
to it.
Go ahead. Take your time.
Because like, what it kind of reminds me of is the human addiction to suffering. Like, we're actually addicted to our suffering, because breaking out of that suffering is unfamiliar to us for the most part when a new change is happening. So it's actually, part of it is very like Buddhist ideology around the role of suffering, because coming back to the dualistic spectrum, there's suffering, but then within all suffering, there's also joy. And similarly, within all joy, there's suffering, because you can't have one without the other. And then around the part of like the more scientific studies with placebos, two resources I really want to drop on your listeners that would be super helpful is, one, there's this book called The Field by Lynn McTaggart. Highly recommend it, because she takes a very highly scientific approach using a number of clinical studies and peer-reviewed studies over like decades to centuries of all of like psychic phenomenon, healing of the physical body. And then the second one is this, he's a teacher, author that specializes in non-local consciousness. His name is Stephen A. Schwartz. I took one of his courses on non-local consciousness, which is remote viewing. And like, this guy is like, he clearly knows, but he also approaches it from the scientific perspective, because as I'm about to get into, that is kind of how I approach things for a while, because I was hesitant to use the word God. And I remember it was less than 4 years ago, call it about like 3-ish years ago. I was leaving New York with my sister and brother-in-law. They picked me up from my apartment. We were driving back home to see my family in New Jersey. And we're going into the tunnel underneath the river to head into Jersey. And I had this conversation with my sister. I was like, like, Selena, I'm really in a lot of resistance to using the word God. Like, there's such a connotation around it. Like, it feels like it's just so imposed on me. Like, God does this, God is that. Like, I and my Father are one, like the masculine archetype of God, the perception that God is this being that judges you and condemns you to hell if you're not good, and only he determines if you go to heaven, and you need to pray to God for salvation, and he's this bearded white man in a throne that is judging at your every move. And there's so much of that energy, and even though I wasn't raised in a religious background, that energy perpetuates energetically our society as a whole. And I was receiving that, and simultaneously I was like, I don't want to buy into this belief of like this God. And I think that's why we're in the midst of this revolution where you see now more than ever, more people are identifying as spiritual, but not religious. And simultaneously, more people than ever are identifying as atheist or having no choice. However, I believe that decision to not make a decision, whether you believe in it or don't believe in it, is actually leaving people in a limbo. I think we're at a juncture in time where up until, this is weird, but how this comes to me, up until the year 2030, making the decision to basically choose what we want to believe is going to be much more easy than after 2030. I don't know why this date is significant, but that's just how I receive it. It's like we're in this period where making this choice is important. And so, and then after that point, my sister was like, I feel like you need to do a lot of introspection and journaling as to why the word God triggers you. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And so I just went on this like journaling spree, like writing, like, what do I believe? Like, what is God? Like creating my own view of God. And then as that progressed, Kelly got into exactly what you're saying with this feeling of oneness. And it's like, oh no, God isn't anything other than a concept. And I think I was recently watching a bit by a comedian where he was like, God is the name we give to the blanket to give a shape to the mystery underneath everything. And so it's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like God is nothing other than what we want to basically try to create structure around something that is so inconceivable, so unable to be described in words. But as humans, we need to latch on to something. So that blanket that goes over the formless, that tries to give it form, we call God.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And you said something that I think about all the time, where you said some people are almost addicted to the suffering. Because one thing that I had to realize, because I try and help basically everybody that I come into contact with, and I try and, I don't try and force anyone to believe one certain thing, but I try and just be the example the best that I can, and maybe, help someone, nudge them along the way. But a lot of people, and I'm sure because you help a lot of people too, a lot of people don't actually want to get better. So there's a lot of people that they have to do their own introspective journey that you did, and whether it's journaling or whatever their medium is, but they have to figure out why they don't want to get better. Because some people, as you say, they're addicted to that pain, that suffering, because some people think that they deserve it. Some people think that, this is just how it is and I can't change it, and they feel helpless.
It just becomes their comfort, and their norm. And then to get out of that is the discomfort, which people like to avoid.
Yeah. So a lot of, like you said, people don't like change a lot of times. And one of the principles that I live by is change is constant. You can't get around. So if I'm not changing, I don't feel good. I feel like I always have to be changing or doing something. So that was so interesting right there, because people need to realize if you're in that position, you need to figure out why you don't want to get better. And then you can move on forward, because everyone deserves it because you exist. So just you existing means that you deserve it, because if you didn't deserve to exist, then you wouldn't, because there are people that don't exist. And you're one of the lucky ones that exists. And if you exist now, knowing that now is the only time there is, then you're an infinite being. It proves that you're infinite if you exist now, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And like it says in the Course of Miracles, if something can be destroyed, then it is not real. And that goes back to the principle that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if your body can be destroyed, then you have to know that it is not real. It's not really you. It's just an illusion. So a lot of people say things like this, but they don't believe it. I truly actually believe the things that I'm saying. So to me, it's like, oh yeah, it makes sense. All time is now. So if I am healthy now, then I'll shift to reality where I was always healthy, and I was never sick. and it never actually happened. So if you change in the now, then I believe that your past changes and your future changes as well.
So true. And you were mentioning your mom had originally you said it was chic, is that the right word?
Sikh, yeah. Sikh.
I'm not familiar with that. Could you describe that? I'm actually interested.
Yes. So Sikhism is it's like, call it like kind of like, I guess like a simplified way to kind of explain it is, in India, Hinduism is obviously very prevalent. However, there are like thousands of different like dialects outside of just Hindi that are able to be spoken, and simultaneously hundreds of different subsects of religion that are formed as a result of sort of Hinduism, or in this case, Guru Nanak is the founder of Sikhism. There's Jainism. There's like all these different forms. So it's kind of similar how you, Han, and Kelly were raised under like a similar like Catholic upbringing, but it was like under two different like segments. So it's I would say it's like it has core tenets of Hinduism, but it's like a different sect or a different belief part of it. So it goes way deeper than that. I obviously wasn't raised in it myself, so I don't want to go that deep into it and speak erroneously, but that's
Gotcha. Now, we've been talking about God, and there's also, the concept of deities. And some people do believe that these deities are like, we're true beings in the physical, perhaps maybe an ET being. And I know some people believe that deities are kind of more like a manifested energy, you know what I mean? And that as an energy source, they are real, but maybe not an actual being like you and I in the flesh. So I was just curious what you think of deities, or maybe it's a combination. What is your viewpoint on that?
Yes, sir. This is a radical question because I've never allowed myself to really think about this. So you're catching me on like, I'm kind of like creating a mini belief within myself around this. And it's a concoction of a lot of things, because I believe there's even, you guys have studied like the Bible and all of this. There's this a verse where it's like thou shalt not like praise any other forms other than me, or give like to like praise any other deities outside of me. I forget the exact verse. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And they have something similar in Islam called Sheikh, where you can't basically worship anything other than God. So
to that point, like I believe that what that means to me is there is a singularity of source energy. That is the only one true creator God. However, similar to angels, and angels are not solely specific to the Abrahamic religions with beings with wings. There have been signs of angels being discussed back to Aboriginal times, which is the oldest tradition on earth, cave paintings of what are believed to be angels. The Druids believed in the elements and the fifth unseen element. In Islam, they believe in the malaika, which is another form of word for angel. In Buddhism, they're called bodhisattvas. In Hinduism, they're called devas. So it's like these beings transcend. And so I bring this up because deities, similarly, I believe, are numerous, but I believe that they are a mechanism for us to realize our own divinity, because it's almost like we are the deity incarnate that is allowing ourselves to be reflected in the deities that people may worship. But there is no other worship other than the creator that is inside of you, that transcends all physical form, that is the ultimate one. So that's why I believe like deities are simply symbols for us to go actually inside and turn the mirror on. What am I looking at? But what is actually inside of me? Because even if you consider the body a temple, well, yeah, the body's a temple. Even this part of our head is called the temples. Like if you go inside the body, like what's really there? Well, you are the temple. You are that spirit. And someone I was even talking to, an amazing master energy healer, was like, oh yeah, like sometimes I see the soul as like these like 3 dots of light. He's like, they're just like tiny dots of light. And he's like, that's how I see it. So just like a little anecdote I want to slip in there, but Yeah, that's kind of what I think about deities. What do you guys think about deities?
Cool.
Yeah, I basically think the same thing, where I believe that to me, it really depends on like a case by case basis. So for instance, with like Jesus, I believe that Jesus was like a highly advanced being, maybe even an ascended master. Maybe he had some kind of extraterrestrial bloodline of some sorts. I don't know exactly, but I believe that he was a very advanced being that came down, that chose to come down to help humanity. So, and I believe that there are a lot of these beings that came down to earth in different cultures and different religions, and they were called different things, as you said. So, where I'm at is I believe that basically they're extraterrestrial, as in they're not from this planet, and they came here to help with humanity, whether they incarnated in a human body or, you know, they use their own physical body or whatever medium that they came. But I believe that a lot of people saw them as gods. So that's basically what I believe about Christianity too. I believe that Jesus was powerful, but people saw him as God himself or as just the Son of God, which I believe personally that we are all the children of God, or that we all are God. We're not gods, but we all are God in that sense. So I believe either we are all the same as Jesus or we're not. But people separate it and think, oh no, just Jesus was the Son of God, or just he was special, or just he was God. And then they pray to him, or they pray to these other, you know, deity beings that are powerful and that are, you know, a lot of times connected to God closer than we are. But to me, because we had our friend on our podcast and she's a pagan and she believes in a lot of different, you know, earthly beings and all that. And I was basically telling her, and she had some, you know, bad experiences and some good experiences. And I never judge what anyone believes in, but I was basically like, tell her all the time, I'm like, why would you even, because she's like, you have to, you know, these beings, they play tricks on you and you have to give them a bunch of different offerings for them to help you, and they'll get mad at you, and saying, you know, there are some like negative elements to it, where I was saying like, that's fine, but to me, why would you even do that when you could just basically communicate with God, all that is the singularity consciousness, because that's going to be the most powerful that there is, because it's everything in the sense. So why not just cut out the middleman and just go straight to God? And that's basically the journey that I was on and what I was experiencing, where I was experiencing, hey, you know, just basically focus on God, because this is the most powerful thing whenever you connect to that all-knowing consciousness, that all that is, that connection of everything, that spark of life that has to exist outside of time. Because as you said, God is basically just the blanket, the name that we cover, because our brains as humans, they're not equipped to fully understand everything around us. So we have to have kind of a general name, which is just God. So at first I was even thinking like, I don't necessarily want to offend people whenever I say God, because there's negative connotations. People in the spiritual community, sometimes they have, you know, bad experiences with God and religion, and they might take it the wrong way. But I just had to rewire my brain and be like, look, I do not care, because at some point in your journey, you shouldn't even be thinking negative things about anything. So that's basically your responsibility. But also, I know that my heart is good and that I'm being positive. So if I say the word God, it's basically all that is, and the oneness that's connecting all of us. So that's basically what I believe about these beings, that they're all connected to God, but God is basically a separate entity that, you know, once you go to God, it's basically like, you know, the white light everybody sees, the connection where you feel you want for nothing, you know everything, and you don't need to know anything. But I feel like that's why we're here, because this life is almost like a test where we're learning and we're expanding and we're able to get growth from it. And that's why whenever I was in the hospital and all that, I truly was happy and excited, and I was like, this is meant to happen. Like I really was. Like people were looking at me like I was crazy when I was in the hospital, because I was so happy and like, you know, completely fine. And I remember like the priest coming in that would help people like pass on, and he would come in my room, and he's the one that even told me about different meditation apps. And so I would go on those. I started using those apps and putting my meditations on there as well. Insight timer. And he was, you know, telling me, and he was just like fascinated. He's like, why are you so like happy, and because he saw like all this stuff happening, like the doctors are telling me basically I almost died, you know, my blood pressure's through the roof at that point. Now it's like perfect, but at that time it was like, you know, in the 200s. And he was just like when I went in, I believe it was like 275 over like 165, like it was that high. So they don't even know how I was really alive. But I was like, oh, that's fine, you know. So I knew that I had a higher purpose and that this would help me, because I was talking to people even before about how to heal your body, how to heal your mind, how to get better. But it's like almost like, who am I to even say this? Why would people listen to me? I'm a 30-year-old man who's going to listen to me talking about heal your body and heal your mind when I'm healthy. But then the situation happened to me. I'm like, oh, this is the perfect situation where I can actually prove that I believe what I believe and being positive in the scenario, which a lot of people wouldn't be positive in. So I know that was long-winded. Kelly, you can say what you think about these deities.
Oh yeah, just quickly, because you know, I'm kind of in the same. It's one of those things I'd like to think about, but I'm not fully sure. Maybe I'll never know the true answer probably in this life, but I think it's definitely where I'm at now, a bit of a combination where I think some may be, you know, these ET beings that came down and end up getting worshipped, etc. But at the same time, I also think maybe some were just on another dimension, maybe just right through in the veil, close enough, and sometimes people can interact with them. And the more people did, they became kind of a little bit more and more manifested into this reality, or more known slash, you know, I just believe in intentional energy, you know, and so much, even for example, a symbol. You know, because for example, the pentagram symbol I know used to be used by druids as a positive thing, right? But over time, I think a lot of negative energy got put into that. So I believe that even if something was good, it can turn bad just because of all that intentional energy over time. Not necessarily just good to bad, but just an example. So essentially, I think if so much intentional energy is put into a concept of a being, right, it essentially will manifest in a way, you know. And it also reminds me of permission slips. Like we have all these, I don't know, this is something we learned from Bashar, if you're familiar with him.
Yep.
We love him. And he talks about these permission slips a lot. So we're here, we're dealing with good and bad, and with every decision we make on a daily basis. Sometimes we forget what we truly are, you know, from the light, the source, and we are divine. So it gets a little tricky. So we have angels, for one, helping us, but we also have permission slips. So in the same way that I think a crystal sitting there could have energy, but it could also just kind of be a rock, depending on how you see it, you know, and your intentional energy and what you believe. So all these things exist around us, and some are meant to, whatever we feel called to look into that helps us grow, become the best version of ourselves, and exists. But certain things work better for others. But that's the fun of it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Han.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. And as you're talking, what comes to me is the meaning of life is the meaning that we give it. And as you're saying, Han, like, we're not here to convince anyone of XYZ belief system.
Right.
There are actually over 7 billion right ways to live life, if that's how people want to live their life. We're not here to tell someone what they're doing is right or wrong. It's being the embodiment for yourself of your own highest truth and belief that then allows that to be the ripple effect that's just felt by someone being in your presence. And as we talk about, I feel you, Kelly, on this feeling of like, maybe there were intergalactic beings that came down, because people even talk about, like, in Hinduism, like Hanuman, or like these like chariots that came from the sky, or like these multi-headed or multi-handed beings. In Chinese tradition, they talk about the yellow emperor, and dragons, for example, may have been like form of different craft that come down. And even in Aztec culture and Mayan culture, they have the feathered serpent god named as Kukulkan, or Quetzalcoatl. And these are like similar dragon type energies, which may have very well translated to different parts of the earth. So it very well could be some form of extraterrestrial experience that people had and then worshipped. But then, to your point, Han, back into shifting gears into like this, like I'll say like symbolism or metaphor around religious teachings, the second coming of Christ, in my opinion, in my belief, is you realizing your own sovereign divinity as a being. You are the second coming of Christ. Like, it's not like we're waiting for a savior to come save earth and like that's like there's other being. It's like, no, like you're the sovereign divine being that is here to live your heaven on earth, that is here to create your heaven on earth. People talk about this shift into the new earth. Well, that we're in this chasm where we can either shift into this high vibration of love or shift into this lower vibration of fear and divisiveness and war. And that is you being this second coming of Christ. And simultaneously, I work with a lot of people who sometimes see like these like demonic energies, and they're like, oh, like in this ceremony I was like doing all these exorcisms, like these dark energies. And for me, like I actually don't see those energies, and I'm like, well, why am I not seeing them? Well, if we are the thought that is thinking itself into creation, well, I'm using my thought power to focus on the energy and the light of God. And that light banishes all shadows of darkness, regardless of where it is. So I am not using my thought consciousness to perpetuate any of that shadow or darkness or see the satanic or demonic. I'm instead rooting it so firmly and so faithfully in the light of God that whatever that light touches, it touches and brings light upon it with that vision of light.
Wow. So that is, again, like I feel like these tears coming up, like,
and you are
because
not emotional.
Yeah, I'm not an emotional person. Like I did my Myers-Briggs the other day. It was like, do you know what yours is, by the way?
I think it's like ENFJ or something like that.
Oh, okay. Mine's INTJ.
Oh no, yours is INTJ.
Yeah, INTJ. It was like 93% thinking, 7% emotion or something. I'm like, am I a sociopath? but yeah, I'm not like usually an emotional person, but when you're talking, it really is making me like emotional because I think the exact same way. And what people don't realize is you are what you experience, what your vibration is essentially. So if you're experiencing these demonic things, the best thing to do, in my opinion, is just to raise your vibration, to focus on love, to focus on God and that unity and that light instead of even giving any power to it. Because even if I see a negative thing or a demon or demonic thing, to me, it'll almost be like childlike. Like that's not, like there's no fear involved. Like, I mean, of course, if you wake up and you see a pure, you're going to be scared, but but you know what I'm saying? Like just on like a spiritual level. Like I don't involve myself with negative energy, or if I remove myself from those situations. And once you raise your vibration and you raise your synchronicity around you, everything that's in your life will be there with a purpose, and you won't have to worry anymore. Am I seeing this for a reason? If I see something, I'll know that it's good and it's for my higher good. And people need to realize that, like, stop worrying about the negative things, stop worrying about wars that are going on and the terrible things that are happening in this earth, because just because you can see it doesn't mean that you're on that vibratory plane, doesn't mean that you're in the same dimension as it. Just because you can see it doesn't mean that you're experiencing it or that it's happening on your earth. And one of those things, when we talk about the new earth, that's basically what's happening, because we truly do believe that we're in the end times. And that doesn't mean the world is going to end. It means that there's going to be a new beginning that's going to happen. So we can all kind of feel like there's an end to the cycle that's happening right now, as you were saying, by 2030, because it truly does feel like at this moment you have to ground yourself and root your core and say, truly, what do I want to believe in? What do I want to experience? And what is the world that I want to be in? And what does it look like? And you have to manifest that reality by rooting yourself and grounding yourself in that.
And saying no to absolutely everything else, which is a key part, because we can't be on the fence about certain things, because we have to stand for something or fall for anything, So like you said, you feel like it's a big time right now where we have to make decisions on things. And I definitely agree. I feel that too. But it just seems like right now we have to stand for what we believe in or fall for anything. And so like you're saying, Han, it's like we can recognize that negative things are going on in the world, and we can maybe even for a moment feel a little upset, feel a little angry. but use that to do something positive. Send your prayers, donations, whatever works out for you. But if you're not doing anything, sending positivity, and you're just letting it consume you into negativity, that's not really helping anybody, right? So, we can recognize these things, but we have to stay positive because that's the only way to really help.
Yeah. And another thing real quick too is a lot of people that are getting new into spirituality, maybe they're looking up a lot of conspiracies, or a lot of times you kind of have to stay away from that. Or if you are looking at it, try and keep yourself at an even kind of, maybe it's happening, maybe it's not, because a lot of times these whatever negative energies, they want you to believe that it's worse than it actually is, so that you feel helpless, so that you feel like there's nothing you can do. So if there's any advice I can give to people, is try and stay away from all the negativity and really think about what you're taking into your mind. And that's why I love meditation so much and positive affirmations, because if you're thinking positivity, then your brain and your subconscious mind is going to revert back to that whenever you're thinking negative. But if you're watching the news all day, you're watching this chaos, you're around people that are negative and they're telling you bad things, and you have to separate yourself from that. And like Kelly said, say no to the things that do not align with that, vibration.
Yeah. And I want to bring up the concept of war, which is a really divisive topic right now, especially amongst so many people. But something that I really believe in is that it's two things. One, the majority of people, and these are two separate points, the majority of people don't allow themselves to believe in anything. And Kelly, to your point, and that indecision, that decision to not make a decision is a decision in and of itself, and leaves people in this point of limbo where they don't have any firm rooted belief. They can be swayed like a leaf in the wind, and it can go this way or it can go that way, but they don't even know what they stand for. And those people, and I will say it, are the vast majority of the planet, vast majority, like 80% plus probably, have just made no decision, no choice, are either asleep at the wheel, like going through life based on societal belief systems or expectations of others, and just fitting into a social mold and working up a corporate ladder, whatever that looks like for anyone. But what we're at this juncture where we need to now take that sovereign power back into ourselves to make a decision about what do we really want in life. That is the biggest question to ask yourself. What do you want in life? Everyone is seeking for greater clarity. No one knows how to get there. People are like, oh, I don't know why I booked this call. I don't know why I'm here. Or like I'm just looking for clarity. It's like, well, the clarity starts with making a choice about what you want. And I come back to war because the choice is either we listen to the news, and the news perpetuates a belief of just fear and death and anger and divisiveness, and this person's bad or that person's bad. And if someone has not made any choice, what happens is they can easily become swayed by the news media. It's called television programming for a reason, because it programs your mind, it programs your consciousness. However, if you have made the choice to elevate yourself into a vibration of love, into a vibration of peace, joy, well, what happens then is you say, okay, I understand that this is something that many believe is happening in this world, right? This is a war. This is here. However, how can I be fully present and aware with what's happening and understanding the past historical ramifications of what brought us here? However, being fully in my heart and fully knowing that we are going to get to a better outcome, a better result, that I allow my own love and prayers and positivity to pour onto the situation such that it doesn't perpetuate a ongoing mindset of fear and war, but instead I am now choosing to use my divine power, my God-given power, to send positive healing love. And even Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's incredibly well known, has done a lot of research, and in sort of near the end of his book, Becoming Supernatural, he's done all of this research around how solar flares increase restlessness and war and battles in the world by this heliobiologist named Alexander Shashevsky. he did research from 500 BC to the mid 1900s and saw that when there were large solar flares, it coincided with extreme world events in mass, battles, wars, conflicts, but also mass periods of big growth in the arts, humanitarianism, technological advancement. And so it means that energy is being pushed here. And if we are energetic beings, well, what we can do that is in our power is to send love and not perpetuate a fear paradigm.
Oh, wow. That's
Absolutely.
beautiful. Because a lot of people don't realize how important that really is to, like you said, they're just going on throughout their day. And I remember Kelly telling me something about that during, what was that book you read, Kelly?
Which one?
Was it Napoleon Hill book or something about the devil?
Oh, Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah, Outwitting the Devil. Yeah. And I was basically saying, if you don't know exactly, if you're just going along with life, then basically you're almost like giving in to the devil.
Yeah, it's a really, really good book. Recommended to anyone. And it's, essentially talks about this concept of the devil in a very nuanced way, especially for back then, considering I believe this was written around the 1930s, probably, Napoleon Hill. So I like this. A lot of people like Think and Grow Rich, but this is the one. This is like the secret one nobody knows about, but it's so good. So yeah, like essentially this concept about the devil, where if we're not in control of our minds, something needs to control our minds. And essentially he describes it in a very different way of, what we think of a devil, but essentially just our mind. And it's so good. And just the way it's described. And it's so true. We will become essentially our own mind will become our own devil, if we don't take charge of it.
Yeah, it's basically like your ego.
Yeah,
in the sense,
just like Course of Miracles.
Yeah. And whenever you talked about the solar flares, it was interesting because whenever we saw the eclipse, we saw a solar flare in the eclipse. And did you get to see the eclipse happen?
I actually intentionally did not go out to see the eclipse. I stayed inside, I meditated, and I just went inside because that is what many indigenous cultures have always done, from the Navajo Indians to Hindu temples. They close all doors during eclipses because it's actually considered a period of the death of the sun. And so the sun is life. And so it's a powerful time to actually go within and introspect. So I intentionally stayed inside and just nourished my own self.
Oh, that's beautiful, actually. Because I did an eclipse meditation and we were listening to it during the eclipse too, which was pretty cool. So did you get any kind of spiritual feelings about the eclipse? Or because a lot of stuff was happening at that time. That was the end, like the last day of Ramadan too, which was crazy. And it was just like a kind of like a beautiful thing. So did you feel anything spiritually during that time? Or
I felt it as a time to actually just like focus on myself, to not really be exerting a lot of energy. I actually blocked off my entire calendar, like no calls, no meetings, like literally just being with myself, gave myself an angel reading, journaled. And it's a pivotal point. The eclipse portal from that first lunar solar eclipse time in any given year is a time of heightened energy. There's a lot of entropy and chaos that happens. People suddenly random illnesses or getting injured or like breakups or deaths. And I talk to a lot of people, so it's like I get to see the full lay of the land of the spectrum of what's happening. And that period was a powerful energetic shift that is propelled us into where we are now, and has kind of like left this the energy of the planet as a whole has been very heavy from, I'll say, the end of February up until really this week. Right now we're heading into a period of like greater levity as a whole on a collective. It feels like as we get to the end of May into June, like there's going to be a lightness that starts to lift up the planet a little bit, a greater feeling of just like taking the foot off this intense gas pedal for the next few months. And then I think some very interesting stuff is going to happen come August into the end of the year, especially in the US around this election. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you too, because you're such a powerful and interesting person. So you clearly have yourself together, and we wanted to know, like, what kind of permission slips and things do you do to maintain that sanity in this crazy world and with everything going on? And you're almost taking on other people's problems too. You have to be careful about that whenever you're doing these angel readings and people are coming to you. What kind of things do you do to protect yourself and, just stay sane, really?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. So there's a bunch of things actually, and I'll say the angel readings are, I don't know if easier is the word for it, but it's a lighter energy. It's a lighter form of energy. The mediumship readings can be much heavier energy because you're dealing with grief and you're connecting someone to a loved one who has crossed over. So the two types of readings I do are very different in that sense. But protection and spiritual protection is paramount. There is a protection capsule I surround myself in called the Rasha Era Christ Star. And this is based on an original language from one of the 3 original celestial seedings of Earth called Anuhazi. And most people think, oh, like us humans, like we're the first ones here. It's like, well, the Earth has been around for 4.2 billion years. If you think it isn't more conscious than us and goes through cycles of having other beings on it, think again. So it's basically based on these original sound tones called Anuhazi. And so the Rasha Era Christ Star is a dark matter protection capsule that is encased in the body that uses also your magnetic energy. And the reason it's dark matter is because dark matter is actually more powerful than light matter. It is actually what light matter is created out of. And so the way that this works is I'll say Rasha Era Christ Star, eyes closed, inhale, surround me now. And so I'll do this 3 times. And as I do this, I will visualize 15 Jalesic rings. So basically 15 concentric circles emanating from the center of my chest, my heart chakra, out around me into space. And then I'll visualize a Merkaba. Merkaba is obviously basically think about 2 pyramids that are put together. It's a very sacred shape. Even in the Bible, they talk about I believe it's about Ezekiel riding this chariot, right? And so, well, that chariot is likely a Merkaba. It's like it's an ascension vehicle. And the way it works is you basically have the pyramid facing up is the feminine energy, the pyramid facing down is the masculine energy, and you visualize this energy rotating around your body, completely encircling you as if you're in a white chariot ascension capsule. And then you'll also visualize these various petals, similar to how you'll see petals represented for different chakras emanating from your heart down to your feet and also down to your Earth Star chakra. So I know it sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. And so that is one of the greatest tools I've learned for protecting my energy. That's also very simple. So that's one of my techniques. A bunch of other ones are like meditating, journaling, fitness, and just moving my physical body. Because even if you think about animals, like look at a dog or any animal that is suddenly like scared, it'll shake itself after. Well, why is it shaking itself? It's resetting its nervous system. It's allowing all of that energy to release itself. So physical movement is important. So these are all just like different small little ways and practices, but most benevolent outcome, which I believe we talked about last time. So all of these things are different permission slips or practices, I guess.
Wow, that's called the Anuhazi. Is that how
the language is called Anuhazi?
Okay.
You can look it up. It's a very ancient language, and it's based on sound tones, really. So like like the words like Allah and even Christ come from the sound tones of Anuhazi. Like they're literally rooted in it. And they're based, and that's why it all rolls back up into the singularity. And the more you learn about consciousness and source, it never contradicts itself. It never contradicts itself when it's true. And then you realize, okay, like deeper truths are being uncovered. Like it's peeling back an onion, peeling back the layers. And you're like, none of this contradicts. Like it's all rolls
You're
back.
absolutely right. Because if something does contradict, that's where humans come in and they put their own opinions on it. Or they think their own, they start doing their own thing essentially. But after the pod, could you send me something about that after? Because I'd like to try that out, because that's very cool. Because we do something similar where we imagine like a pyramid around ourselves, but I'm going to start doing the Merkaba, like we do a pyramid of light around ourselves to protect ourselves. And that's why whenever we were learning about Islam, we basically didn't know anything about it. I mean, we knew a lot of people that were Muslim, but we didn't know anything about it really. And the more we started to learn about it, like the same thing when we were learning about Hinduism and Vedanta, we're like, wow, this is like a lot of this stuff is like real information that people need to know about, because a lot of people think about Islam in a negative way, but really there's just people worshiping God and believing in God. And the more we learn about it, we're like, they believe in Jesus was a prophet, but they don't believe he was a God. And we're like, we kind of believe that too. Yeah. And they just believe in one God, and a lot of cool stuff. So do you know anything about Islam, or have you studied it at all?
I know it a little bit. I took a Middle Eastern studies class in high school, and then also I traveled to many Islamic countries like Egypt, Morocco. I spent a lot of time there, Jordan. My grandfather read the entire Quran cover to cover and like would tell me about it. I wish I paid a little bit more attention as a kid growing up. I was just like, oh, cool. Like wasn't in one ear or out the other.
Was he Muslim, or did he just like learning about religions?
He was Sikh, so that's actually how he was raised. He was the one who raised my mom. Yeah. But he was he just super well learned man, like very been through a journey of life, and it's just crazy stuff if you think back into like ancestral lineages, what they've gone through and where we are today, even in just like 2 generations.
It's absolutely great. What was your experience like in Egypt? Because we want to go to Egypt. Yeah. We want to go like this summer. What was your experience like?
Yeah, so I've been a bunch. The first time I went was in 2022. Last year, I actually led a retreat through Egypt where I work with the Egyptian Ministry of Culture, and we basically rent out the pyramid, and we do a full moon sound activation in the King's Chamber.
Wow! When's the next one?
It's gonna be either this year in November or next year.
Please let us know, because we would like to come. That sounds beautiful. I know Billy Carson does something similar to you, where he goes to the pyramid and does like some meditation. And we would love to do that. So please let us know. Yeah, we definitely will.
I will plan on doing it again this year then, because I've had a bunch of people tell me similarly that they've been getting this calling to go to Egypt. And the way it came together last year, it came together so synchronistically, because I went to Egypt as an homage to my mom because I booked a trip with her before she passed on. But then COVID happened, and then I quit my job, and I was like, well, if I'm just gonna, go forth and take this trip as a blessing to her. And I received all these like downloads, met these people, like deep spiritual people, because in Egypt, a lot of Egyptologists basically are not allowed to talk about the energetics and deep spirituality of Egypt because it ostracizes them. However, I became very ingrained with like a family basically in Egypt, and they like took me into their shop, and like they own a gem and crystal carvery in Luxor for the last 150 years. And like, it's like their lineage is the last great pharaonic masons. So we just like started talking about deep spirituality, and like they cooked for me in their shop, and they're like your family. And then I became good friends with my guide, and he helped me create this entire experience. We have like private time in Isis's Temple of Love on the Nile, where I led a love ceremony. Wow. It's like we had a private dahabiya down the Nile, and we create this like unique experience that's a mix of like incredible adventure and travel, but a deep spiritual activation. And so that's really what it is. I really feel deeply connected and activated in that land.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I asked about that, because we didn't know you were doing all that, Neal. That's crazy. That's so cool. We definitely want to go next time. We've been feeling a calling to go to Egypt. What happened?
Because actually we were doing a QHHT session, which is, the past life regression hypnosis we were talking about. So Han was under, and at the end, your own subconscious mind comes out. You can ask it any question you want to know about yourself, about life. So we are asking, where should we travel to, this upcoming year? And very unexpectedly, Han's higher mind said Egypt, which we weren't expecting. Like, if it all works out, if it lines up and the opportunities there, go. And we're like, I guess some kind of Egypt opportunity will come up. We'll see. So that's pretty insane.
It's here. I mean, I've already tentatively planned it. It's November 14th. So because we literally planned it with the full moon in mind. So making sure that we go to the the pyramid on the full moon.
Mm.
So it is planned. Last year it was on Archangel's Day as well. Full moon and Archangel's Day was the same day. But let's talk. I mean, we'll talk offline, but this is
yeah. Let's definitely talk. So what, do you have anything else going on, or how can the people reach out to you, and what kind of things do you want to, plug or tell people?
So, I mean, I'd love to kind of do what we did last time. I actually have my angel cards here.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, I didn't want to pressure it. I wanted one, but I wasn't gonna ask.
No, I mean, you started it with this incredible, like, it's only right to give people an understanding of like what happened. Like,
I mean, that was, I mean, I'm going to clip part of it and kind of give people an idea, because I'm telling you, Neal, that was crazy. Like, you are a special being. Like, you really have a gift, and this gift needs to be shared. So, and we know that you are destined for great things, and you're already doing great things. And just by being yourself now, like, you're being the example for other people, whether you realize it or not. We look up to you, we love you, and we're so grateful and appreciative of everything, of you even, talking to us. Like, we really are. So we're so thankful and grateful, and you're always welcome here on the podcast. So we definitely would, and we can't wait to meet up with you in real life too.
Yeah, so. Thank you. It means a lot. And just for the listeners, after our first episode, Han, Kelly, and myself are now part of this group that does intentional energetic healing and work for people. So it's been an interesting journey, because it's it actually is somewhat rooted in the energy of non-local consciousness and how you can help people heal. And there's been so many studies about this, about people in prison even, and people who have sent just energetic thoughts of good wishes, and the level of people who have been let out early on good behavior as a result of that. And even so many studies have been done, but we're definitely going deep into exploring.
Yeah, that is powerful, because that right when we started that's the exact timing where I was miraculous healing, because just putting that thought out there where people are thinking it together is more powerful than people even realize. So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, even we did a past life thing, and it was a place that was kind of like almost looking like Atlantis. And there was people in temples together that would meditate together and think of a specific thing. And that's how they got certain ideas of what to do and how to do it. Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of that too, which is absolutely phenomenal. So do you want to kind of explain to people that have never seen this, what's going to happen and how you do it?
Totally. So this is called an angel reading. And what's going to happen is I use cards as a medium or mechanism for me to gain an original understanding of the general category that the message needs to come through for me. And I'm kind of at this point where I'm like, do I really need the cards anymore? But I kind of use it as like a little bit of like, I don't believe I do need them, but I use them as training wheels, so to speak, because it's just the energy that helps you understand the archetype of what's trying to come in. And the way that these messages come, you'll give me an intention around what you're looking for guidance on. It can be any area of life. This one is just going to be one area of life. And what will come through is we'll open a ceremonial space. In this case, I'll ask you to just breathe quickly with me. Not quickly, but take a few breaths with me. Repeat an angel blessing after me. And then I'll pull 3 cards from your energy. I'll go into the reading, which is a channeled message that comes through. And when I really do these readings, what happens is the channel is fully open. So people can ask any questions back that they want. And I think we did this last time too, where you guys asked a couple of questions. The channel is a fully open channel, and you can ask questions. I'll ask the question back. I'll receive the answer and give it to you. And that's how it works. And then we close it in a similar way we started, by just centering ourselves, grounding with gratitude. And the way these people always ask me, like, how does this like really look like for you? Well, it comes to me in visions, auditory, like words, and a felt sense. And I basically kind of act as a decipher for like, basically like I'm seeing this vision, like what does this mean in relation to this person's life or predicament or situation. And sometimes it can be like literal things happening to you in your physical life. Other times it can be symbolic things happening, like fighting a dragon in a castle or like whatever. So it's a little bit of just like deciphering these things. So that's how this works. And so I'll ask you, what's your intention with this reading?
Wow. I guess I would have to say our intention is basically almost like the last one in a sense where it's kind of like what really comes next for us. I mean,
Mhm.
we're learning about God, we're showing people different sides of God. We feel like it's our kind of our mission to connect people to God in different ways and then let people just choose what they want to believe in or decide in. So we're kind of like what's coming next. We know that it's our role to kind of write some books and to really get our experience really out there, maybe do some public speaking, but almost like maybe what should we be focusing on, or
Yeah.
what do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because we know there's a lot of things that we want to do and will do, but it's all about, you can't have analysis paralysis and it's got to be one thing at a time. So I agree. Yeah. Like, what is the thing to focus on
Mhm.
at this point in time?
Or even just any messages that we need to
Yeah.
hear that are coming up that our guides or God or whatever positive entities have to say that are helping us.
Mhm.
For sure. And guidance is obviously number one, right? That's what angelic
Yep.
beings are here to offer. Just so I can give you a better refinement on what I receive, are there many different avenues or options that you're considering? And so I know you mentioned speaking route or a book or like focusing on the podcast. Like, are there other things that you're potentially considering that's in your heart around like, okay, like this is everything that's on the table. And then I can sort of see like, okay, these are all like the ingredients and maybe they need to reach for this one ingredient or this two ingredient most powerfully.
So right now we're kind of thinking because we're in the process of we're going to write a cookbook to help people that are in the
Are you serious? And I use
yeah.
the word ingredients. Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's how synchronistic everything is. So, like, we're in the process of like we're getting our recipes together because when I went through the journey before, I would cook like every meal. Then, whenever I was like in the hospital on dialysis, Kelly really stepped into her basically like feminine role of taking care and being that uh, just beautiful woman that's cooking every day. She was making 3 square meals a day and just
Wow.
it was just awesome. So now she's such a good cook. I mean, it's crazy. So we
Yeah.
want to do a cookbook for people that are kind of in a similar position
No
where they can
salt.
see like because I had to go on a very low sodium diet and we don't cook with salt.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
like every once in a while we'll go to a restaurant like once or twice a week and do our little cheats and whatnot because I know that I don't need to do it anymore. And it never even affected like my blood pressure or anything, but we just know that it's healthier to do it. So we're trying to help people through the cookbook. And then we also want to help people by writing a book about, just the journey and the experience.
Yeah.
And then a book about, the principles and how to like manifest and how to really do
Yeah.
certain positive things. And then we're also trying to make courses to help people to show people how to cook, show people
Wow.
maybe even how to do digital marketing and edit videos. And so there's kind of like a lot of avenues that we're kind of going and doing. And then the public speaking, because I want to speak to people. And I feel like I have to tell my journey to people because that's kind of my purpose and why it happened. So there's a lot of different avenues.
Yeah, because we're very, entrepreneur minded. So when we get, and we're like we're dreamers, we're passionate. So when we get ideas, we're like, wow, let's pursue this, pursue that. So there's so many things we're interested and passionate about right now. So like, even outside of the spirituality, we have, hot meditations. We can go more in with content with that, or just, different avenues such as products, etc.
Like I fly drones. That's
Yeah.
basically our job
Wow.
is to fly drones and we do digital marketing. So
Yeah, we
we
have
record
a
commercials for
digital
people
media
and editing.
business.
Yeah.
We do professional videos, photography, and then a lot of kind of just like social media content, that you might see like on a TikTok ad for a product.
Like UGC, user generated content. So there's a lot of stuff. So basically any guidance at all or any
Yeah.
messages and because I feel like if
And
we get a message or whatever, we'll know what to do with it.
yeah, and like before all the health thing, I a few years ago used to make content online. I still do a bit, but that started growing at one point. A lot of like beauty focus, but I've always really felt passionate about helping women become the best version of themselves. So I'm kind of feeling a pull again to get back into my own content creation, but at the same time, I really want to help with the hot meditations and I'm I know which path to go, but I have a lot of things floating in my brain right now. So
Perfect. All right. Well, let's get into this, and I'll give you guys the full experience, and then you can choose to cut out if you want to, because it'll be a little bit lengthy with the breathing and visualization that we'll do. So you can cut out some of that for the viewers, so they don't need to get bored if they don't want to.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the full experience.
Okay.
Cool.
Perfect.
All right. I'll just need to start speaking because there's so many messages that it's getting hard for me to remember everything that's coming through. So I'm just going to start talking and it's going to come. The first message is actually directly from A Course in Miracles because it's already topical based on what we've been talking about. And so they're saying the biggest message that just comes forward, and it came through immediately, is I need do nothing. And they want you to remember this, that you are actually both right now these antennas that are incredibly crystal clear. Like your antenna, your frequency, what you're picking up, what you're receiving is like, there's no static, there's no confusion. It's a very clear channel what you're receiving. It's this energy of you talking about God, speaking your truth, living in alignment with your virtues and values is just on a heightened level of authenticity and connection to yourself and what you believe. They want to acknowledge that the biggest strength and positivity that really shines brightly in your life right now is an energy of immense opportunity. It's like you're almost being met with so much opportunity at every corner.
yeah,
Like the energy of your YouTube channel really comes through with this. It's like partnerships, monetization, people, like there's just so much powerful change that is taking place right now. And this is actually the greatest strength that both of you have. And they want you to continue to lean into this change. It's this energy of, Han, I remember you talking about change before. It's like they're really saying like you're at a time period where change is extremely powerful, potent, topical for you. And not just that, it comes with immense opportunity and immense opportunity for gain. So this is also a very financially lucrative period for both of you. That is you're in it. You already feel it. You're in it, and it's something that is continuing to work itself through. So don't view this as something that like, oh, this is transitory. This is going to dry up. This isn't what it's going to be like. No, this is a moment of change that is giving you an energetic indicator of more of what is to actually come.
right.
So they want you to lean into the faith and the trust of saying, oh, we're being shown this because this is part of our path. This is something that we're basically being given a peek through the keyhole of what's about to happen, but the door is going to start to open and we're going to get to look inside the entire room and see everything that's around and be in the room, not just be looking through the keyhole.
Wow.
Give me 1 second. Be patient and be calm and be very deliberate and decisive about what partnerships you choose to create, because there's going to be so much opportunity that comes to you at this point, and it will almost feel like there's a desire to jump at every single thing that comes your way. But the energy is very much around patience, calmness. Not every single opportunity is going to be for you. So they want you to actually both talk it over. Whenever something comes in, do not jump to any conclusion. Trust, but verify, because there's going to be different contractual agreements that come up for you during these times. There's going to be different like mechanisms that take you to the next level. And really what keeps coming up in my mind is your YouTube channel. And so they want you to be like really patient with knowing what right opportunities are. And if something is in a full body yes, and you're like, yeah, but like, you know, the compensation's really great, but it's not like 100% with alignment with what we need to be doing, to actually be like, lean back into your values instead of leaning into the money, because there's a sense of it's almost like are you fully ready for 100% of what you actually want? Because it is there, and it's almost like settling for 80 or 90%. It's another timeline, another path to take, but isn't necessarily the highest timeline for you to be taking, because there may be very well another opportunity that's right around the corner that just needs to be opened first. So allow yourself to be patient and be calm, because during this time, it is a lot of heightened energy that's like, it's the energy and opportunity is literally carrying you forward like a wave. But what needs to happen is you to actually take time to meditate on the opportunities that come, to actually make a decision that is rooted not in your own personal will, but in divine will. So the energy of God is very prevalent, because it relates back to this, your antenna being very clear. But in order for you to receive and know and act on the deepest clarity, you're going to need to actually meditate on the things that you receive. So don't immediately rush to say, yes, I'm going to do this. Be like, okay, this is amazing. Thanks for this. I need to take time to think this over and talk this over, because as you even do that, more permutations may start to unfold in the midst of you doing that.
Okay.
This one's always fun, because the message is be here now. And obviously you already know that, but how this relates to you is your angels want you to know that there's so much happening, and the energy of be here now is actually just be here for the ride. Like it's like this point of like, the roller coaster is happening, that you're on the ride, and you can't control the roller coaster. It's literally like a pre-programmed ride. And so your ability to be here now and be present for the ride is actually what you need to be doing right now, because when you lean into the presence, what then happens is the energy of divine planning and divine timing is actually very prevalent for you. And this trickles into all of the business opportunities and choices that you need to be making, because divine timing is coming through both of your hearts collectively. Because what's happening now is there's a shift that's taking place with all of these opportunities, but it's almost something that you're not in control of. This is something that's happening on a way higher soul level. And that's why that energy of I need do nothing comes back, because you're now on the ride. The ride is already riding, and you doing anything is not going to, you can't do anything. You're literally riding. You need to just put your hands up and enjoy the ride at this point. So that's that energy of saying you're in what's the energy that really wants to burst through is saying, there's so much happening, but I actually don't need to make a decision right now, because what's happening for me is actually something that will become very apparent in divine timing. It's almost going to be something that is like screeching in your face, saying like, this is very blatantly the number one opportunity that we need to follow. It's like, not like, oh, like there's so many things and so many interests, and like, yes, we're entrepreneurs, but it's like, and it's good to have these interests and like sort of just like continue to just like water them like plants, like succulents. You're not going to like overwater the succulent. That's just too much water for it. But just give it a little bit of water, nourish it. Just like make sure it's like, oh, it's happy, it's still there, it's growing. But the main thing that's like really going to be demanding your attention is something that is, it's not something that you're going to be like, okay, now this is a new project that I need to start, or this is something new that like we need to be doing right now. It's going to basically like show up at your door, and you're going to be like, oh wow, that's like divine timing. Well, yes, it's divine timing, because your antenna is super tapped in, and there is just a huge tailwind of change. And it's the energy, it's change, yes, but it's like, it's really opportunity. It's opportunity that's like coming out of every direction. And if you're not feeling it coming out of every direction, you will. It's like going to be like a lot, but in like a good way. And so the biggest challenge actually that your angels see throughout all of this is your ability to meditate, is your ability to stay composed, is your ability to not rush into making a rash decision based on just an emotional knee jerk, because something's like, oh, like this is awesome, like let's do this, like I'm so excited. Like let the emotional wave subside for a day or two, so that you're off the intense high, and then you can make a little bit clearer you as an intellectual, like your Myers-Briggs comes back to me. It's like even you will get that 7% of you will get swept up on an emotional high, but let that come back into balance after like 2 or 3 days, 1 to 3 days, to allow you to say, okay, like we've looked at all possible permutations. This makes sense because this opportunity and partnership and revenue gen leads us here. But that's why they really want you to remember like composure, meditation, stillness, going within to ask, okay, is this the right answer? Is this the right next step? That's actually how you will know the next step when these opportunities come. Give me one more second. So the energy that almost comes through, I asked more specifically around like all of the things that you have on the table. The energy around cookbook and cooking, they're saying just keep doing what you're doing, but don't focus on that was crazy.
Why did that happen?
What was that?
You didn't click anything?
I did not click anything. My hands are right here.
What the?
I've never seen that.
Oh my goodness.
That was why, and they do that. The angels do that. Like they'll literally send me random signs, like random hearts will pop up, or like I've never gotten balloons. I've gotten hearts, thumbs up.
I actually don't know what that was. Like I'm not even joking. That's crazy.
I have no idea how that happens.
Oh
That's crazy. Anyway, so what they're saying is you don't need to focus on writing a cookbook or like anything around like this. Like they want you to continue to do the cooking part of what you're doing just as the passion for what you're doing without having this desire to either monetize it or make it into something. They're telling me, Kelly, follow just the passion of cooking, follow the enjoyment of it. It's almost like it will naturally evolve on its own without you needing right now to take the like impetus to start something new. So they're saying just enjoy that aspect as like the hobby side of what you like to do without putting like additional pressure or strain on it. That being said, health for you, Han, is going to be really like topical. The topic of health, to be speaking about health, is going to be really important. What?
Yeah, another thing came up.
Yeah, another
when did it.
thumbs up.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't see that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's like right whenever you said it.
So I mean, that's what they do. They'll give me signs if it's like, yep, this was right. You got to be talking about this. Right? So
we're in control of this thing, just so people know. Like you joined our thing, and we're not pressing anything. And right when you like,
and we've had crazy, this whole hour and almost 2-hour conversation,
and that's never happened.
Yeah.
So wow.
So yeah, so health for you is going to be really important and topical. Speaking about health, about your health journey, about healing, like health, like that keeps coming up. Like physical health is like something you really need to. I don't know how that evolves for you. If that's speaking about your own journey, like a talk on stage, or like being more vocal about it, or writing a book. But for you, health. And Kelly, for you, they want you to lean into women's empowerment. So however that looks, like you're meant to actually now help serve women more greatly. And like the YouTube channel is like just like that kind of takes the highest layer of like what you're being asked to focus on right now. I'm happy to ask about like the media and videography stuff if that's interesting to you guys. Keep doing what you're doing with all of it. Is there a course that you guys were planning on making?
Yeah, there's like a couple,
and actually a digital media course.
Like one we want to do like about like how to basically do like thumbnails, how to edit on Adobe, how to edit audio, and all that. And also you could ask about like real estate too, because I'm a real estate agent, but I've like not been actively, selling houses because we've been so busy, and I just feel like I don't really feel aligned with it right now, but it's not really not aligned. I just don't feel passionate about it. So, you know, I just thought of that too.
Sure. So the course, there's something to the course. So some
Okay.
aspect around a course is going to come into creation.
Mhm.
So on the media side of things, yeah, there's some importance of a course for you guys. Real estate, this is interesting. This is something they actually need you to decide on your own. So
Okay.
so and this happens sometimes, right? Because they won't always tell me everything because some
Mhm.
choices need to be made by the soul because that's part of the experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
It all like you already know the answer
Mhm.
of what
Yep.
you need to be doing. Um, the energy of Bashar actually comes through as you even talk about real estate. So that's something to also be aware of. Um, so they're telling me you actually already know the answer. I just I can't tell it to you directly.
Okay. Okay.
But to allow yourself to give yourself the permission to lean into what you believe you need to be doing because
Okay.
there's thing you already know.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's beautiful.
Nice. So, are we thinking of more questions?
Do you have any more?
Um, I guess let me think. I would like to know if I should restart my YouTube channel at this time.
Sure. Okay. It's getting very interesting now because I'm getting answers. I get the answers, but they also tell me ways in which I'm allowed to expressly tell the answer outright, or in this case, I meant to ask you a question.
Okay.
The question they want me to ask you is, do you have a burning desire to restart your YouTube channel?
That's a good question. It's it's just an interesting one because I've been asking myself that lately too because it keeps coming up on my heart and then I'm asking myself like is it the true burning desire or is it just maybe I feel like I should or and I've been asking myself that every day and like your answers in the beginning it's kind of like before we even asked all these questions I felt like maybe we're just not meant to know everything right now and just do what we do know to do for now and it'll be revealed. But I would say at one point when I was creating my content, it was a huge burning desire. It faded away. And then I felt like it was a time to not really focus on myself and maybe be a little more selfless. But I've been feeling the desire come back up. I'm not sure if it's at a burning yet, I'll say, but I'm feeling a tugging of the heart. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, the phrasing was very specific. How they asked me to ask it. So, keywords: burning desire.
Sounds good. That works for me.
And then I would say too, I want to ask because since we moved in, I mean, we've been just so busy, and it really feels like I've been like, almost learning to live life again in a certain sense. So, and I know I told you we did like the detox kind of like on the phones. I'm honestly not even a good texter at all. I don't even like being on my phones. And sometimes it comes off as rude, but it's just like, sometimes I just don't want to be around the technology because I'm editing so much and all that. And so many people sometimes are calling and texting. It's like, sometimes you just need space. So one of the things I'm wondering is, we haven't been doing as much like meditating and spiritual practices like the QHHT and all that, but I do still feel connected. And I know, as you said, we're on the ride and we don't really need to do anything, but I just want to know if they have any clarity of that way. If we're still, should we be leaning into it more? Are we just do it as needed, or how should we go about our spiritual practices?
Mm-hmm. And so this is, I will ask the question, but this comes back into that challenge aspect around your biggest challenge right now is actually coming back into meditation, coming back into composure. That is literally what they see and what they said. So part of the energy is already around like their like meditation needs to kind of come back into the round a little bit, because they see like so much is happening, and the way you actually make grounded decisions is actually through your meditative states, which are very profound. So that's like what allows you to keep that antenna very clear. So there's just that, but let me ask you and see what more comes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're straight up specific. They're like more regular, and I was like, okay, like what's more regular? And they're like daily. Like it needs to be like back to daily.
Okay, beautiful. And then I have one more question. You were talking about the technique that you use to surround yourself, and I forgot what you said it was called. The
Rashi or Christ star.
Yes. So when you said that, it was incredibly interesting to me because you said it was like dark matter energy. And whenever I envision myself, both Kelly and I have separately envisioned the energy around me being like dark energy, but it didn't seem like evil or, anything bad intentions. And I was just like, wow, whenever you said that, it really kind of connected me back to that. It almost felt like dark cosmic energy around me. Can you ask them for clarification on the energy that's around me and kind of the purpose of that dark energy that spawns the light, I guess?
Sure.
And if it's the same, I guess.
Woo. It's really strong energy. It's extremely powerful energy, and the energy is literally the light of God. Is what that dark matter energy is. It's literally the light of God. It's your halo. It's your wings. It's like all celestial bodies. Like it's deep intuition and third eye. Like your third eye is freaking powerful. Like whoa. Like even just asking the question, my third eye was like blasted open by this light. So that dark matter energy is actually the God energy. That's the light energy that is takes all forms.
No, that's so crazy that you even say that, because Kelly says that, like, she would tell me during Reiki that I have wings and that I need to envision them whenever I'm meditating or doing spiritual practices. So for you to even say wings, I've been very connected to birds, and it's just that's very crazy that you say that. So do you have any more questions, or that's it for me?
No, I don't have any more.
Okay. So unless they have anything else to say, I think that's good. That's great.
Right. Let's just see if any closing remarks. They are complete.
Wow. That was powerful.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming back on, Neal. I mean, we always love to have you on. You're welcome anytime. No matter how big the channel gets or how small it gets, you're always welcome on the channel whenever you want. You have a free pass to come on. And we're so grateful. We want to go with Egypt. We want to go to Egypt with you too.
Yeah.
And I just have to say too, like, your hair looks great. I'm jealous, you know, because you know, so your hair looks great, brother. So
Thanks.
thank you so much for coming on, and we appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. If there's anything else you want to say, you can, but definitely get Neal's book, guys. If you want to schedule an angel reading, how do they go about that with you? And
Yeah, so you can DM me on Instagram at neal.bakshi. It's also directly on my site. You can book it directly on my website, nealbakshi.com. And the retreat side of what I do is now starting to be like my biggest passion. It's I want to be in person with people, helping them have transformative IRL experiences, like these incredible things in Egypt. We're doing one in Mexico in December. There's going to be ones in Greece. Like, it's a whole expansion plan to mix an ancient healing and ancient sites with adventure and travel and fun experiences. So yeah, I would love to have you for Egypt, for Mexico, for wherever else in this beautiful world that we get to experience. So yeah, you know where to find me.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll link your Instagram and website in the description.
Yep. If there's anything you want us to link specifically, just go ahead and text us and we'll link it in there.
For sure.
So thank you for coming on, Neal. We love you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.